It's a great honor to welcome you all to this meeting on behalf of three organizations: the Clingendael Institute, the Netherlands Society for International Affairs, and the Atlantic Association, of which I'm the proud and humble director. It's a great pleasure to welcome here our distinguished guest speaker from London, Mr. James Sherr. He is Associate Fellow at the Royal Institute of International Affairs, Chatham House. Now, as to Russia, the issue with Russia must not be trivialized, and Russia must not simply be denounced and stigmatized. The basis of this has to be understood. It's very serious, and I use the term discord. It is a geopolitical and civilizational discord, and it's underpinned today by the fact that in so many key areas, Russia and what I think we can legitimately now, with more confidence again, call the West, we have been divided not just by different interests, but by very different views and understandings of political reality. The issues we are dealing with today in Europe, which became apparent with Russia's intervention in Crimea and then subsequently eastern Ukraine, would be just as significant as they are even if the Cold War had never taken place. Russia has now officially repudiated and directly attacked the political and legal basis of the post-Cold War order which Russia co-authored, along with the rest of us. Now, President Putin has said as early as last year, and the point has been made officially and informally many times, before then and since, that what Russia seeks is a restoration of the Yalta system, which is built on great power, hegemony, and understandings on the basis of spheres of influence. And so this is a hierarchical view of international relations. And it has been the bottom line of understanding throughout the now enlarged Euro-Atlantic community that we have turned our back on politics of this kind. Now, increasingly, the Putin system in large part is based on this civilizational construct, call it, if you will, an ideology, a new ideology. That we are, from a civilization point of view, different from Europe. We are distinctive. We are an upholder of certain values that decadent, postmodern, multicultural Europe has lost. And these values are not simply common to Russians, they are common to all East Slavic peoples, they're common to our compatriots, they're common to everyone we have influenced. Now, if Ukraine can actually do this, then that ideology becomes unhinged. So this is the background to what we are looking at. We are, in the West, dealing with some very serious challenges because of the methods Russia uses in employing hard power and soft power. The basic one is that we're dealing with an approach from Moscow, from all the security institutions, a very coordinated approach, which by our standards is very purposeful, tenacious, and tough. We're dealing with people who think in Darwinian terms about the world, who think that strong powers will be unforgiving about weakness and exploit it, that strength must be used before it is lost, that power is there to be used, and who think in high-risk terms. And this is difficult for people. Some very senior Western people who should know better in high-placed positions said very early on in all this, why should we worry too much? Russia's GDP is 1/10 that of the West, etc. GDPs don't win wars. What matters is the conversion of national attributes into usable power, if you're talking about war, and to a large extent diplomacy as well. From Putin's perspective, the weak party in a confrontation is not the party with the most to lose, it's the party who is most afraid of losses. And he looks at the West and says, that's us. We are not going to talk the Russians out of this. This is not a matter of persuasion. This is, as I said, this is deeply entrenched way of thinking. As long as this way of thinking and these premises are there, we are going to find ourselves dealing with some variant of the same. In these circumstances, our first responsibility, and it's always been our first responsibility, is to maintain the security of our own allies, irrespective of whether they are far from Russia or close to Russia, to support our allies with or without Russia's consent. This does not depend on Russia's consent. I was in the room when Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, said, it was a year ago, it was in October 2014, he said in response to a question, he said, Moldova and the Baltic states need to watch what's happening in Ukraine and draw conclusions. The Baltic states, no, members of the NATO and the EU. Doesn't matter. They're part of this. There are Russians living there. And Russians that Moscow calls Russians. It doesn't matter if what those people think their identity is and what their loyalties are, which is a complex question. But you see what's clearly being said also is even in the Baltic states, even to some extent to Poland, you have to understand, despite the fact that you're in NATO, you're in the EU, you are living in a gray zone between the West and Russia, and you should change your behavior accordingly.
Do I deserve a drink? You deserve more than one drink, I think. As a token of our appreciation, I also want you to give you an excuse to come back today. For the studies, and I'm sure we will continue this in the coming times. Thank you. In the rest of the day.